we're going to start with the Raiders first. They added lots of receiver talent to help Derek Carr make his last-ditch effort in proving himself to be the starting quarterback. And honestly, from looking at just the PFF grades alone and looking at his stats, he's got a lot of great stats, past and present. I think that maybe having this extra talent will get him over that hump, which you can look at as being a franchise guy. A lot of people thought Andy Dalton was a franchise guy, but he was surrounded by talent that elevated his game. So do you take the chance in Derek Carr being your franchise guy? I don't know necessarily. I feel like he might also be a little bit limited just because of the overall team itself, the defense not being the greatest, and the fact that they only had like Keller at tight end, and it's like Tyrell Williams, I think, the receiver. Now that they've got Ruggs there to help stretch the field, I think that they'll have a little bit better production, at least throwing the football. They got a great running back in Josh Jacobs. I think that really will solidify this offense.
Yep.
And all the additions that they made on defense with Corey Littleton and Prince Mukamara, Jeff Heath, Demarius Randall, a lot of the talent that they picked up in free agency was not necessarily star talent, but it was definitely starter potential to like better round out the defense. They had a lot of holes, and they had a lot of positions that were not starting quality. So this offseason really helped them kind of not necessarily give them star talent, but a lot of depth. And we've talked about how depth can go a long way. And hopefully their cornerback that they also picked up at number 19, Arnett or something like that. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he will hopefully be starting quality as well.
Yep.
And now that we've gotten past the couple of drafts when they traded Khalil Mack away, this is a very big year for our head coach Gruden, because if those picks don't turn out to be worth a Hall of Fame talent, then was it worth it?
You know, I think one thing that kind of bodes well for the Raiders specifically is they have a lot of young talent. Even last year with Jacobs, in the backfield, they had a lot of just young talent that can be developed, which is kind of at a bad time for the Raiders, I think, because like Derek Carr, like you were saying, he's not young anymore by any means, especially being injured, 2 seasons ago, I think, something like that, 2 or 3 seasons ago. I think he got hurt for a little while. And then it's just the Raiders, they have all the potential to be good. They have some of the talent around Derek Carr that I think they need. But like Josh Jacobs, he can't fully carry your team, so you're going to need some things around him. Like, yeah, you can have a really good rookie or sophomore, in this case, running back now. But at the end of the day, you really got to have some things around him so he can get a break every once in a while, or he can get so they don't just focus the run game. Like, they'll have Josh Jacobs, they'll just key in on him, and everybody on the defense will be looking for him, and he'd go out for a pass, but everybody will be on him, or they'll hand him the ball, and he'll start to run and then just get absolutely demolished because everyone's focused on that rather than the long ball or
and having Henry Ruggs out
Yep.
there, that really helps them stretch the field. He ran a really fast 40 time. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was pretty ridiculous. I think it was like 4.28.
Yeah, I think that's close. Yeah,
It's either something like that or very sub 4.3. And either way, he's ridiculously fast. They needed that to stretch the offense down the field, and with all the additions, especially on defense, like I said, this team is going to start rounding out more. Do I think it's enough to edge out the Chiefs or get a 5th or 6th spot in the draft, or not the draft, the playoffs?
the playoffs. Yep.
No, I don't think so. I think the team still ends up going 7-9. And the only reason I say that is because the games that they only lost like 3 games within a touchdown, and that if they won those 3, they would be 10-6,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not bad. But all the other games they lost by an extreme margin, and part of that is from coaching, and part of that is from having a poor defense or turning the ball over too many times. And I don't think the team is just there yet. I would have been a lot higher on them if they had a better draft. And not to say that they didn't have a great draft. It's just that they didn't have what the Broncos had. They had an amazing draft, and the Raiders only had so much to work with. They only had 7 picks, but they only picked 1 through 4, the first and fourth rounds. So their thought process was get the higher skill talent and not quantity, which is fine. But hopefully those picks end up working out, and it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do with Derek Carr. I think he might actually end up being the guy there, and if that's the case, they might be hurting a little bit. As a fan, you're like, well, he made the necessary steps to move forward, and I feel like he will have a really good season next season, put up good numbers, but he's not a guy that is clutch, and he's not going to be the gunslinger to compete against Patrick Mahomes. And we've seen plenty of time with him, and he only had 1 or 2 winning seasons under his belt. So it's, I don't know. I feel like maybe Raiders go like 7-9, 6-10 this upcoming season, and I know that's shortchanging them a win from last season, but they also didn't. They didn't like come to me as like a surprise team.
Yeah.
Like they're not a team that should have been better than 7-9. They are flat out 7-9 team. They might have even overperformed or overachieved that record by a little bit. And, that could have been coaching. That could have been just I'm doubting their defense more than I should. But, only adding a couple of star talent players or ex-star talents like Prince Mukamara and Corey Littleton, I don't think that will be enough to push them over the edge.
I really think I've said this for a while. When it comes to Gruden, either of them, honestly, either of the Grudens, I think at the end of the day, they're like good guys, like good guy coaches kind of like thing. Like they're good guys, but as for coaching, they make some questionable decisions, like Khalil Mack and that. It's like I don't know about that, but like you said, if that ends up working out, then good on him. But I really think a big part of it is one. So that we all know they signed Vontaze Burfict, right, last season, and then Vontaze got thrown out after 4 games and yada yada. Everybody's mad that he got thrown out after 4 games, and this wasn't a hit and yada yada. It wasn't a hit that should have got him thrown out and suspended. But when the league looked at that, they were like, well, he has a history, and I want to discuss this a little bit. It's kind of unfair, especially him coming from the Bengals, so we know kind of specifically. Vontaze kind of gets a bad rep. Yeah, he does sometimes play a little like more dirty, I think. And I don't – I come from a school of thought where I don't really see it as dirty necessarily as much as playing hard. Like he played like guys used to play back in the day, like back in like the 80s, 90s. Like they would go hard, and when you got hit, you knew you got hit. And I'm not talking about the straight helmet to helmet or shoulder pad to helmet kind of stuff where they're
the ankle twist that he did with
Yeah.
Cam. There is instances of him playing dirty.
Yeah.
But his game is built off of hard play.
Yeah. So that's kind of especially for Raiders fans, they'll probably know this. Reggie Nelson left Cincinnati and went out to Oakland and played for a little while. And Reggie Nelson was one of the, like, in my opinion, one of the better safeties of like the 2000 or the 2010s or whatever, like when he was playing
Last decade.
Yeah. So my thing is like he would when he would come across the field and hit you, Reggie Nelson would hit you, and you're not holding on to the ball, and if you are, you're like a serious man, like you're a serious player. And I think that's kind of what Vontaze tries to do a lot, and we can probably have a whole entire podcast on this, but like the hits with Clay Matthews had last year or 2 years ago, when he just kept getting flagged and flagged and flagged and flagged because he was taking down a quarterback too hard, and he really was trying to figure out how he was supposed to play the game, and that's one of the reasons why. Going back to the last podcast, that I think I heard not Khalil Mack, the middle linebacker from the Panthers. Luke Kuechly. I heard that's one of the reasons why Luke Kuechly retired, was because the game wasn't what he wanted to play anymore. It was basically turning into a game that he thought he couldn't play at his best ability because he wasn't allowed to play the way he was taught to. And I kind of agree with that, because I'm going to be honest with you. I do like the game getting safer, like, because that's a necessary. Like, we can't have all these concussions and head blows and all this. But there is a certain point when you got to realize that the quarterback is a player on the field. They signed up to play football. So them getting hit, and I'm not talking about the ones where they like absolutely drive them into the ground, put their shoulder in their rib cage and just try to hurt them on purpose. But there was, you'll remember specifically when Tom Brady went back, and I think it was against the Chiefs. One of the players like touched his helmet.
This was the championship.
Yeah. This is the AFC Championship. He barely touched his helmet. Like, he barely even grazed it with a finger, and they said that it was roughing the passer because he made contact with his helmet. And he didn't even really make contact. Like, he grazed the top of his helmet with a finger. And you're going to, like, it's things like that where it's like, the refs have to use their discretion more on stuff, where if it's like blatantly kind of a call like that, then yeah. But if it's like just a grazing of like their helmet with like a hand, like, honestly, you're going to do more damage to your hand than you are their helmet or their head.
Yeah.
Where if it's like head to head, it's understandable. But to get back on topic a little bit, the Raiders, I feel like their defense is just they have some potential to do some things and get going, but I really just don't think they brought in enough in the offseason I haven't really heard. Is Vontaze coming back next season for them?
I don't know. I did not research that. That was actually an afterthought for me.
Yeah.
Just because I don't feel like he would make that big of an impact anyways. Yeah. I could be like totally wrong, and he just flat out has a career season if he does come back. But
yeah, I don't know if I don't even know if they're going to reinstate him into the NFL after that. Like, because even if he does come back at this point, like, refs are just looking at him to throw a penalty. So, I mean, I don't know that would even help the Raiders, because the Raiders would just get penalized more for the most part. Yeah. But I do think as a whole, the Raiders have a decent amount of potential, but it's really hard in the division that they're in with the Broncos, which we're going to talk about later, and the Chiefs, which we're going to talk about later. Both are just like better teams in worse divisions. Like, I can't even think of one, but like, say if they were in like the division with like the Cowboys and the Eagles and them, they might have a little like a better chance of doing more. But it's those 4 games a year that they got to play against the Broncos and the Chiefs, and it's like, okay, those are like rough games for them. So then you got to look at the rest of their schedule and kind of hash out where they're going to perform and which teams have a better offense. Because against better offenses, I don't think their defense is going to shut anything down. They're going to have to, with their offense, going to have to try to play with the other team's offense and kind of keep up. So if the other team has a good defense, then they might start to get in trouble.
Yeah, the Clinton Farrell and Crosby, the other end on that side, it'll really depend on their development too. Mm-hmm. They did decently last season. I did watch some film on, it's either Crosby or something like that. I can't remember what his last name is, but he
Max Crosby?
Yeah, Max Crosby. Yeah. He has misleading numbers and stats relative to other defensive ends that graduated from that class. I'm not exactly sure if it was Alex Ross, NFL analyst guy, or if there was another YouTuber that did a film analysis on him, but
Mhm.
if they take the next steps forward and continue to grow, that defensive line gets a little bit more scary. I will say that and give them credit for that if that happens. But until we see further
Yeah.
stardom talent, I
Yeah.
just don't see it.
Like I
working out.
said, they have a lot to develop. Like I think they're a younger team outside of Derek Carr. I think they're a younger team who can really easily develop into a scary team to play against in that division, and they could very easily become in the next, say, like 2-3 years, a real competitor to the Broncos and the Chiefs. Whereas you see some teams and you're like, there's no way that in a few short years they can be good, but you see the like potential that that the Raiders have with young players, and you see Josh Jacobs and things like that, and you're like, okay, I think they know where they're going if they keep on this track and they keep going down this path. I think they have all the potential to be good, but this season I don't see it happening.
Yeah, they are the most average team
Yeah,
in the league.